Hello, Jim here, scuba diving instructor in Japan, and today we're going to look at a near miss, a scuba incident. The person who posted this incident thought they had a near-death incident. It was back in June of 2018 at Moose Mountain Quarry in Northern Ontario. The water was cold, 41 degrees Fahrenheit. To boot, this was an uncertified diver. I'd like to thank this person for posting this event for people to learn from. Let's get right into it. Starting the video now. So as we can see, Moose Mountain Quarry 2018. Now I'm going to read through the description while it goes through this beginning part. So what the original poster wrote: I'm an idiot. This was my second ever dive without certification. I had been breathing incorrectly in some dumb attempt to conserve on air and panicked at 100 feet when I was unable to suck in air from my reg, which caused me to shallow hyperventilate. So because I couldn't breathe and my partner was already ascending above me, I made an emergency ascent, not even correctly, to the surface, causing my lungs to expand and throw up basically nitrogen upon surfacing. Later symptoms included a minor headache, dizziness, muscle cramps, chest pain, and ringing in the ears. 2 weeks after the incident, there was another experienced diver who died at the same location in 60 feet of water as he experienced something similar to me. So no information on that incident at all or how it was similar. I'm noticing here I don't see any computers on either one of these guys. Anyway, continuing, there's more explanation. Before you get too eager and decide to be a condescending asshat in the comments section, I have been certified and am currently an advanced diver with a solid number of dives under my belt, including deep dives. I understand what happened during this dive, opposed to my definition in the video, which was, again, still before I had any training. So no need to attempt to give me some personal explanation of what I should have done or what happened. You weren't there that day. Now, the curious thing about this incident for me is the person's posting after this has actually kind of confused me a little bit more in some respects. And this explanation, right, there's stuff in here that's just off, right? Throw up nitrogen upon surfacing. I really don't know what that means. All right, so here they are. They're about to go down to 100 feet from 60 feet. I don't see a dive computer on either one of these fellas. And really, the breathing rate doesn't seem so terrible at this moment, from what I can hear. Now, I do know the person was talking about shallow breathing. Maybe the person was skip breathing. I do know people who do that to spread out their dives, and it can cause CO2 problems. All right, here they are at 100 feet, and I'm going to pause this at the moment here. Now, from here, everything goes kind of quickly, and there is not as much action as we might like. The person very shortly after this starts to do what they described as an emergency ascent when the person could not breathe. It doesn't look like anybody is really exerting themselves here. It's very flat. Once they got here, it's flat. But the person says they were overweighted. Let's have a look at the dive itself. All right, so here they are at 100 feet. Everybody looks calm. Everything looks fine. I don't see anything about excessive breathing, excessive bubbles at all. A little bit of a leak there on the inflator. That happens. Now, as I said, we don't see the action. It cuts away, and we're going to see this person ascending. Here's where it says, "This is the moment before I had CO2 buildup in my lungs and could no longer breathe properly to inhale proper oxygen. Shallow hyperventilation caused a bit of an anxiety attack, so I made an emergency ascent to the surface from 100 feet, 30 meters. The emergency ascent, although very uncomfortable, probably saved my life." Yeah, I don't know. That's really interesting. Well, let me continue here. So we're just going to see a bunch of bubbles from now. And I'm not sure where the buddy is. I think before he said the buddy was above him. And here they are. They both look together. I don't know. I guess this is them ascending at the same time. Maybe he was working too hard to ascend. Maybe he didn't use the BC, inflate the BC, and start deflating it. Now, here, so he surfaced, and now he's back down at 20 feet. It gives no explanation as why that happened. Maybe the buddy does not say. I guess the buddy was a certified diver. The buddy knew that maybe they'd blown up from 30 meters, 100 feet, and they should go back down and do a safety stop. And doesn't say if anyone had, they did have depth gauges, you can see. Doesn't say if anybody had a computer, so we don't know if there was like a deco obligation or something like that. There's no information on that. So he's doing his deco at 20 feet. And here you can see, I suck. So he's clearly at this point distressed. And now they're exiting. We saw this on the way in. It's black bass, I think. Black bass. All right, here they are coming out, uneventful. So the person had a series of posts, of comments underneath. And let me see. 2 years ago, the person mentioned the funny thing was they don't teach about CO2 buildup in the open water course, which I do. I don't know. I think instructors out there would say they did. So I don't know. And then what is it? 1 year ago, this was 100% ignorance. I don't believe it was narcosis that got me into trouble. Just overworked myself and couldn't suck in enough air and didn't know how to respond, which led to panic. So I don't know, right? And then 11 months ago, I wasn't narked on that dive. I couldn't suck in air for whatever reason at depth. So, And then 9 months ago, the explanations get more detailed as time goes on. 9 months ago, I was overweighted, overexerted myself, and consumed way too much energy while taking shallow breaths the entire dive in some stupid attempt to save on my air consumption, etc., etc., etc. At 100 feet, I was unable to inhale any breath properly. I was desperately trying to suck for air because I was out of breath from trying to ascend while being negatively buoyant, and my breathing pattern went into a state of total panic in which I couldn't control it in the slightest and couldn't take a breath. It took me 45 seconds to surface, in which I had no breath. I could have passed out before I even fully ascended. It was a scary situation that won't happen again because I'm now experienced, and I would never do what I did on that dive again. So that was the most recent post. So the posts as they go on are making a little bit more sense on being non-certified. This person caught a lot of heat in the thread about not being certified. Let me just say, having a lot of family in Florida and spending a significant part of my life in Florida, there are a lot of uncertified divers in Florida. So, and recall, there's also there's also certification for the experienced diver, which means someone who has, I think, 25 or more dives, and you can give them some credit for that. 25 or more uncertified dives. So plenty of people I know in Florida who are uncertified. I'm not condoning for it, but just saying. There's no such thing as scuba police, except I think in France. I've heard of scuba police there. And, anyone is free to, if they could get the equipment and the air, and go out and do whatever. Same thing for skydiving, I assume. You're perfectly willing to do all kinds of dangerous activities if they don't endanger other people. I think in the States, the issue would be getting a tank fill. Some places might check your certification, maybe not. And I think that'd be about it. And going on a boat. So if you try to charter a boat ride, of course they would want to see that you're certified, because then you're in their care and there would be some liability on their part. But if you're going out yourself, no liability on anyone else, you're free to do whatever you want. And I know plenty of divers, as I said, in Florida, lobstering for tens of years and spearfishing and all kinds of stuff, and they never got certified. I think I certified one or two of them over the years. That was one point. Now, the other point here about, I honestly do not know what the actual issue was. Now, he wrote about coming up to the surface and what was it? Spitting out nitrogen? Let me see, hold on. Yeah, this I do not understand at all. I made an emergency ascent to the surface, causing my lungs to expand and throw up basically nitrogen upon surfacing. So maybe the guy wasn't exhaling on the way up properly. It says he said he wasn't breathing properly on the way up. So maybe, I've never had my lungs almost explode. I have no idea what it's like. Maybe you would be spitting out air as the air is expanding. Maybe it felt involuntary for him. I have no idea. But throw up basically nitrogen. That's really puzzling. I really don't understand that at all. This kind of reminds me of the nitrox incident that I posted a bit back, where the person thought they were only breathing nitrogen out of the tank. But these, later symptoms included minor headache, dizziness, muscle cramps, chest pain, ringing in the ears. The headache would make me think CO2, but anything causes a headache, right? Let me see. So what do we have here? So going back to what I talked about before. So at 100 feet, I was unable to inhale any breath properly. I was desperately trying to suck for air because I was out of breath from trying to ascend while being negatively buoyant, and my breathing pattern went into a state of total panic. All I can imagine is, because at 100 feet, this person looked quite okay. So maybe they were kicking their way to the surface. Maybe they didn't, there's no air in their BC. They were trying to kick their way to the surface and were overweighted and were working and were narked to begin with, because at 30 meters, you're going to be narked, especially if you only got 2 dives under your belt ever. And working hard, you're going to have CO2 and a CO2 hit. CO2 hit is going to make you feel a lack of breath. That, in my experience, is a feature of CO2 narcosis. And maybe the guy overbreathed his reg. I don't know. I should have had a closer look at the reg. I didn't. However, I know I've overbreathed a snorkel in my life, and that was really unpleasant. So yeah, maybe this reg got overbreathed. I really don't know. What else? Talking about not being narked, I overworked myself, led to panic. Funny thing. So I don't know. Okay, so 2 things. One thing, it makes more sense to me that they were going up, because they looked perfectly calm at 100 feet, right? They from what they showed, that looked perfectly calm. It looked like a normal breathing pattern, a fine breathing pattern. And coming up, maybe we didn't get to see what was going on. Maybe there was exertion, as I'd said, going on, and that makes sense. What doesn't make sense is this person saying they panicked at 100 feet when he was unable to suck in air. This was in the description, so that kind of, I don't know, goes against what we saw. So I am really not sure. I know this video didn't have a lot of action and a lot of evidence, but the writing has a lot of evidence. So I'm very curious to hear what folks think out there. For me, I think it's narcosis and CO2 buildup, probably skip breathing, more CO2 buildup. And I'm not really clear when this panic set in, if it was before the ascent, which it didn't look to be, or if it was during the ascent. Maybe the person did not have the BC inflated and was fighting it on the way up. Also doesn't make sense. The buddy was above him, he said, but they seemed to arrive at the same time. Obviously, none of us recommend diving without certification, so we don't need to beat on that horse, right? In any case, happy this fella, has lived to dive a lot. He says, he's an advanced diver now, diving and enjoying diving. I think Rob, Rob, thank you for posting this, and glad you made it through, and hopefully you learned a lot. I'm not sure, there are a lot of details here that are still unclear, so I don't know if you happen to see this video. I'd be happy to see some of the details filled in. In any case, please post up what you're thinking, instructors, divers out there. I'm really eager to know what you think about this event. As a side note before closing, we're always looking for people who are willing to come aboard and be part of the channel. Also, we have different ways to support the channel now. Of course, there are affiliate goods at time, and we are also on Patreon now. So if anybody wants to be a patron of the channel and maybe do some live streaming and direct communication, maybe be in some beta viewings of some videos or donating topics, have a look at the link below. Thanks a lot, and see you on the beach.